Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Being Young at Any Age. This is George Bentley, your host. We're going to be talking about creating for you a self-directed roadmap to optimal happiness, wellness, and vitality, no matter what your current challenges are. And if you've joined us before at any of the other previous programs, you know this is all about helping you learn how and discover secrets that I consider that I've bumped into over the last 15 years working in this area as to how we can become proactive in managing our life as we age. We truly are the captains of our own ship, but we have to have the knowledge and information to be able to do so effectively. And that's what we talk about on this show. The other thing I challenge you to think about is the fact that you can have three different responses to anything you hear on this program, and they're all okay, but the last one is the most important. You may disagree with what you hear me say, and that's perfectly fine, but I suggest you need to think why. And you may agree or you may disagree, doesn't matter. The question is, why do you agree? Why do you disagree? If you don't go to that third point, I think we're just wasting our time here, right? So again, I'm challenging you to start thinking about the decisions that you're making in your life and how that impacts the quality of your life. Why is this so important? You know, why would I take the time and the energy to come down in here and speak with you today, to create the blog, the YouTube channel, and the web page and the book that's coming out? Well, it's because I am absolutely convinced that we're capable of living to at least 122 years of age. And the only reason that we're not living to be 122 years old is because of what we're doing to our body. In other words, if you pass from this earth, and I believe anybody who passes from this earth prior to the age of 120 has actually suffered a premature death. And the point is, we know this why. We know for sure we can live to be at least 120 because Jean Clement lived to be 122 years old. Documented, proven, this woman lived those years. In fact, she's kind of a role model to me. And she kind of embodies, I believe, the spirit of what we're talking about, to be young at any age. Ms. Clement rode a bike until she was 98 years old. She smoked cigarettes until she was 94 years old. And you may remember we mentioned this in an earlier show. Why did she quit smoking cigarettes? She quit because the men were telling her they didn't like the smell of cigarettes on her. And so, meaning she was active, she was dating. Ms. Clement would drink whiskey every day. I don't know how much, it wasn't in the report I read, but she also ate a bar of Belgian chocolate every day. The main thing is Ms. Clement had a very, very strong sense of humor. We did one entire show on the power of humor. How important humor and laughter is to our health. It really is the best medicine. And we need to think about how to laugh at ourselves as well as the challenges that we face in life. Ms. Clement was at her 120th birthday party, and somebody was talking about how good she looked for her age. And she says, first of all, I have no idea how you'd know what I was supposed to look like at 120 years of age. But she also went on to say, you know what? I've only had one wrinkle in my life, and I'm sitting on it. Would you like to see it? And so she had a very strong sense of humor, and she carried that with her through her entire life. We also talked about how being young at any age is something I feel like needs to be dumbed down. We tend to get overwhelmed in our culture. We get too much information, too much stimulation, too many fad diets, this, that, and the other thing. And being a dumb old boy from Arkansas, as I've said, I really try to keep things simple. I have to get this to the point that my little old pea brain can understand it. But not only that, that I've got to be able to explain it to my father, who's now 99 years old, by the way. Went back and saw him last weekend. He's doing great. But he needs to be able to understand this too. So I try to keep it simple. And I break it down into four major areas. That's exercise, eat right, avoid injury, and reduce stress. So we've already talked about stress reduction and the importance of stress reduction. We're in a highly stimulated environment today, and our response, our amygdala, which is our flight or fight part of our body that takes in visual and auditory information, and that's what tells us if we're in danger or not, is super overstimulated. and we have no meaningful response to that. We're not actually being chased by saber-toothed tigers or whatever it is. And that's evolutionary process for us. It's why we're so addicted to negative information. That's why the news is so negative. We thrive on it. We require it. But we can turn that around. We are in charge of our own lives. So rule number one, laugh at everything. I love the quote by George Burns. He says, we don't stop laughing because we get old. We get old because we stop laughing. And I think that's the truth. So again, think about these things in major categories, and we're going to try to make them a little bit simpler for you. And again, the other thing I want to tell you is don't get overwhelmed. It's not necessary. There's a Japanese art called Kizan, and I love it. How many times in my life I've said, you know what, I'm going to start exercising. You know what, I want to lose weight. You know what, I want to work on my relationships. You know what, I want to go learn how to play the guitar or whatever it is. We set these goals for ourselves, and a lot of human beings have a hard time sticking with that. And one of the main issues that we have in sticking with a goal and completing it is we get our mind going. We get so overwhelmed with things. We feel like things have gotten so complicated that I'll never get there. I'm not going to go work out an hour a day, 5 days a week. It's not going to happen. And we get overwhelmed and we quit. I'll never lose those 30 pounds. This diet is just too difficult for me. I can't handle it. The art of Kizan is very simple. And that is, if you want to learn any new behavior or habit, whatever it is, only do it for 2 minutes. Do it for 2 minutes. Do it for 2 minutes at the same time every day. That's it. So if you want to exercise and get in shape, and you get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, from 7:05 to 7:07, exercise. And that's it. Go on about your life. And you just do that every day. Now, anybody can do 2 minutes of anything. But the fact of the matter is our brain gets hooked into that. And next thing you know, you're doing 5 minutes. You're doing 10 minutes. It becomes an acceptable pattern to you, and you realize it's like eating the elephant question, right? How do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. How do you change your behavior? How do you learn a new skill? You do it one step at a time, one piece at a time. And that's my message to you. Just take one piece of anything you hear in this program that resonates with you and makes sense, and focus on that. And do it in baby steps, okay? So I told you that I believe that we're programmed and wired genetically to be able to live to at least 120 years. I talked to you about Jean Clement, who proved it. But I want to anchor today's show with a fact. And this is from the Center for Disease Control. I didn't make this one up, okay? Some of my facts I make up, but this one I didn't. Since the dawn of human life on this earth, however you believe we got here, every generation has had a longer life expectancy than the preceding generation. Every single one since the dawn of time. Until when? Until now. For the first time ever, the last 2 years, according to the Center for Disease Control, the average life expectancy in the United States has dropped. And this program and the content in this program is what that's all about. Why is that happening? How can that be with all these new amazing technologies that we have? I told you, my 99-year-old dad had a new heart valve put in. I mean, the guy's reclocked. He's going, I'm going to make it to 112. We didn't have that 5 years ago. We didn't have that 3 years ago. 3 years ago, my dad wouldn't be with us right now. You get me? We've got huge cutting-edge technologies coming down the pipeline here, but it's up to us to learn how to avail ourselves of it. And my primary audience is baby boomers, the parents of baby boomers, and the children of baby boomers. So my primary audience is really everybody, but I focus around the baby boomers because we're the ones right now. I'm a baby boomer. I'm 66 years old. I have the ability to make changes in my life that are going to have the greatest impact on our society and our economy. So we're going to live to be 95, 100, maybe 110, maybe more years old. There's only 3 questions involved in that. No matter where you are in this AB game, right? You were born on one date, you'll pass on another date. The only question between now and the day we leave this earth is how healthy will we be when we get to be 90, 95, 100 years old? Can we still contribute to society? That's a big one. I just gave a talk to a civic group this morning, and they're all beginning to age. They're getting older, but they really resonated with the idea that they owe it to their civic group, to society, to stay healthy so they can can continue to contribute as they age. And I met a gentleman there. His father is 100 years old, and this guy still builds violins. And let me tell you, luthier work, I play guitar, luthier work is very difficult. But my point is, this guy is staying vibrant. He's contributing to society. He's keeping himself active. The other big question is a financial question. It's a personal financial question as well as a social financial question. And that is, how much health care are we going to consume between now and the time that we exit our earth as we know it today? How many surgeries, how many knee replacements, how many procedures are we going to, how many pharmaceuticals are we going to have to put in our body to try to get there? And I'm telling you right now, reducing our requirement for medical services is one of the primary things we can do to extend our life. Here's a fact, another one I didn't make up, by the way. According to the American Medical Association, they've had data for years, but they've never really analyzed it. And they finally did. And when they look at the causes of death, it's without question the number one leading cause of death in the United States is what are called iatrogenic conditions. Do any of you know what an iatrogenic condition is? An iatrogenic condition is an illness or injury that's caused by medical care. It's caused by a therapy. So I think I told you guys the story. My mom, 83 years old, falls in the bathtub, breaks her hip, and gets on this downward spiral medically. She died in a nursing home almost exactly a year to the day after she fell. You maybe remember, she fell on my parents' 59th wedding anniversary, and she died the day before my parents' 60th wedding anniversary. But it wasn't the broken hip. She got over that probably in 3-4 weeks. She went into the emergency room and she was in pain, and they gave her one of these opioid-based medications. By the way, have you heard about the opioid epidemic? Of course you have. Do you think that's new? No, that's been going on for years. And my mom was a victim of that. She was a rapid metabolizer. They gave her the medication, caused her to have a stroke. She lost 60% of her cognitive ability. So because of that therapy, because of that medication, now we were in a totally different ballgame. And that put her on this downward spiral. I'm telling you right now, I've been doing this for 15 years. I've interviewed and talked to thousands of seniors, their adult children, and their caregivers, and everybody knows a story like this. It is an epidemic. Here's an interesting fact for you to think about. You and I are 4 times more likely to live to be 80 years old or older than any other generation. We're 4 times more likely to make it to the age of 80. And that is getting to be a pretty easy mark for us to make. I mentioned to you about life expectancies dropping and how it's our responsibility to make the decisions to improve the quality of our life. And I say there are 2 major killers and 2 major reasons why people injure themselves, become sick, and don't live to be 100. They die a premature death, right? They die before 120. The first one is denial. Don't want to acknowledge it. My dad, 99 years old, wants to drive. Is it safe? I don't think so. And denial ain't no river in Egypt, right? But my dad needs to understand that he's not a safe driver. Ignorance is the other. I say ignorance killed my mother. We didn't know how to make her bathroom safe. Right now, contact me. I'll send you a free copy of my book, Killer Bathrooms. I can show you how to make any bathroom out there 100 times safer for under $100. It doesn't have to be expensive. And I'll tell you right now, if you're doing any remodeling at all, think about this. The house that you're living in, unless it was built after 2010, it was built with the idea that we had a life expectancy of 65 years. It was not engineered and designed architecturally to accommodate us as we age. So we've got these bathtubs with high sidewalls on them. We've got showers that are unstable with glass and tile, and you're getting in there and doing the rain dance trying to clean yourself. We got stairs everywhere. We've got elevated sections to houses. We got steps you can't get up and down if you're in a wheelchair on the outside of your house. And if you're doing any kind of remodeling process, just call us. I don't care if you're 20 years old. If you want to maximize your return on investment and you want to make sure that you get the highest possible resale value, then you want to make sure that whatever you do meets ADA guidelines as much as possible and addresses issues of accessibility. I'm telling you, it's kind of a no-brainer. It makes a lot of sense because, again, we are all living longer and we are all getting older, and the odds are you're gonna need to sell that house to somebody that may have a little bit of mileage on them, you know? So let me ask you this. Do you agree? My mama used to tell me this all the time. Knowledge is power. Do you agree with that? Remember what I said before? Now you got to go to the next step. Why? Or why not if you don't agree? Well, would you also agree then with the statement that lack of knowledge is lack of power? Lack of knowledge is lack of power. So you don't have to agree with me or my guests, but I do challenge you to be a curious George and ask why. All right. We talked about iatrogenic conditions. We talked about my mom, the downward spiral, but here's the key, right? I'm looking at my mom's headstone and I see the day she was born and I see the day she passed. And it's pretty impressive. We're weird in the South. I'm from Arkansas. I've already got my plot. My parents bought the plot for me to be buried in, when I was born, I think. And my dad already has his plot. And my dad already has his tombstone there. But the beauty of it is it has his birth date, June 22nd, 1919, but it's blank under that. It doesn't have the date that he exited this earth. And we're trying to make that, of course, as far out as we can.